I am going to live. Yeah.
Okay.
I think now you can.
Okay. A very good evening to one and all. Today we are having a webinar session on Know Your Algae by Miss Asulaba KS. So she is currently pursuing her PhD. Her bachelor's and master's were on general biotechnology, and she also holds a PhD degree in eco-informatics. She has over 7+ years of experience in monitoring lakes. She has trained many students on water quality and water quality assessment and lab scale algal monitoring studies. So her major strengths include monitoring of aquatic ecosystem, water quality assessment, algal culturing, and algae and zooplankton taxonomy. She has many research articles on wetlands and stream ecology. On behalf of EWRG and NVIS webinar, I extend a warm welcome and request Ms. Asulaba KS to deliver her a talk and share her knowledge with us on Know Your Algae. Over to you, Asulaba.
Thank you, Sharanya, for the introduction. So today I will be talking about Know Your Algae. Phycology or algology is the study of algae. The word phycology is derived from the Greek word phykos, which means seaweed. Also, if the term algology, the algology means phykos means in Latin it means algae, seaweed. So algology or phycology is the study of algae. Coming on to the history of algae, the Cyanobacteria is the first algae to evolve 3.5 billion years ago. So Cyanobacteria are prokaryotes and they lack membrane-bound organelles. Later, after that, only eukaryotes evolved with membrane-bound organelles, then mitochondria, chloroplast, and chromosome-containing DNA. So it was Cyanobacteria to evolve first. Coming on to the general characteristics of algae, algae are very simple organisms with no vascular tissue, except brown algae, which has a higher degree of organ differentiation. Then algae have naked reproductive structures. There is no protective layer of cells around the reproductive structures. Algae are photoautotrophic. They are the primary producers in aquatic food chain, and they produce their own food materials through photosynthesis by using sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide. Algae are similar to plants as they contain chlorophyll. However, not all algae are classified as plants. In case of structure of algal cell, there are two basic types of cells in algae, that is prokaryotic and eukaryotic. So algae are microscopic or macroscopic, ranging from unicellular to multicellular forms. There are at least 20,000 identified species of algae. So algae, I have already told, they are the primary producers in the lakes. So they are autotrophs. They create carbohydrates through the photosynthetic mechanism, wherein the carbon dioxide plus water gives carbohydrate plus oxygen. Here, in photosynthesis, oxygen is released with the synthesis of carbohydrate. So why algae are important? Algae produce oxygen as a waste product of photosynthesis. So earlier our atmosphere was a reducing one. It is with the evolution of cyanobacteria, that is the most ancient form of life, has contributed oxygen to the world's atmosphere for the last 3 billion years. The cyanobacteria are able to fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, so it helps in the fertilizing of the soils. Then algae help to purify water by absorbing nutrients and heavy metals. That is, algae have the capacity for bioremediation. Then algae are the basis of aquatic food webs. That is, they are the primary producers. They give food to the other organisms in the tropic level. Algae can be valuable indicators of environmental quality. So they help in biomonitoring experiments also. So monitoring species abundance and composition can be useful to identify the changes in water quality caused by changes in the surrounding land use and anthropogenic activities. So because of all these reasons, algae are very important in our aquatic ecosystem. So let's see, where do algae live? Algae can be found in marine habitats in the form of seaweeds or phytoplankton. Then they can be seen in freshwater habitats, mainly in streams, lakes, rivers, and ponds. Then algae can also be seen in terrestrial habitats, that is phytoplankton attached to the stone walls, tree bark, leaves, then in lichens and on snow. So algae need various elements as macronutrients and micronutrients to live, photosynthesize, reproduce, etc. So the various macronutrients required by algae are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, potassium, magnesium, sodium. The various micronutrients required by algae are iron, manganese, copper, calcium, zinc, molybdenum, and vanadium. So all this in the water helps in the growth of algae. So this is biomass composition of microalgae. That is, here you can see this is a list of algae and their respective protein content, carbohydrate content, lipid content. So if you see here, all the algae have different amount of protein, carbohydrates, and lipids in them. So, and all these components can be extracted for making out new products. So why we need an phytoplankton analysis? Phytoplankton analysis or plankton analysis would help in explaining the causes of color and turbidity and the presence of objectionable odor, taste, and visible particles in the water. Then plankton also helps in interpretation of the chemical analysis. So it adds more knowledge to the results. It helps in identifying the nature, extent, and biological effects of pollution. Then phytoplankton analysis will also help in biomonitoring experiments, providing data on the status of an aquatic ecosystem on a regular basis. So plankton analysis is very necessary to understand the present scenario of the lakes. How do we collect algae? So algae collection and identification. So here algae can be collected with the help of a plankton net. So through this plankton net, we have to pour about 50 liters of water and all this algae get concentrated at the bottom of this tube. Then we have to transfer all these contents into small sterile sample container, and then we have to do a microscopic examination. So through the microscope, you can understand what are algae are present. Then you have to write down the key features. And also if the microscope is attached with a camera, you can take pictures of algae also. And then you can identify to this genera or species level. Then the life forms of algae, according to their environment and features, are classified like planktonic, benthic, epiphytic, epilithic, epipelic, epizoic, and endozoic. So planktonic algae are algae free floating or suspended in the water column. Then benthic or benthos, they are the algae found at the bottom of a lake, streams, or marine system. Mainly diatoms comes under benthic. Then epiphytic, that is algae living on the surfaces of plants or algae. Then epilithic, they are the algae living on the surface of rocks. Then epipelic, algae living on the surfaces of mud or sand. Epizoic, that is algae living on the surface on animals. Then endozoic, that is algae living within an animal's body. Also algae can be found in very other different habitats like on snow, then leaves, etc. So examples are cryophytes. Cryophytes are certain algae that are found growing on the snow covered peaks of high mountains, imparting attractive colors to the snow. Example is Chlamydomonas nivalis and Scotiella. So these two, they provide a red color to the snow. Then another example is Rhaphidoneema that imparts a black color to the snow. Then another example is Ancycloneema species, this imparts a brownish to purple color to the snow. So these algae, they grow on snow and imparts a different color to the snow. Next category is thermal algae. These algae are found at very high temperature, as high as 85 degrees Celsius, especially in hot springs. So examples are Synechococcus elongatus and Formadium tenuae. So they can tolerate even very high temperatures, unlike other algae. Then halophytic algae, these are the algae found at very high salt concentrations. Example, Chlamydomonas ehrenbergii and Dunaliella species. Next is aerophytes, that is algae living on trees, leaves, bark or land animals. Example, Formadium and Cytonema. Then some algae, they live in symbiotic relationship. They are called symbionts. So a large number of algae live in association with other organisms for their mutual advantage and are called symbiotic algae. Example is Nonstop species in Anthoceros, and this is Azolla. So this is Anabina. So Anabina species in Azolla. Some other forms are parasitic forms. So some algae, they depend on other plants for their food. For example, is intercellular parasite Cephalolurus that grows on the leaves of angiosperms like Magnolia and Rhododendron. So here you can see all these orange spots. These are majorly algae, that is parasitic algae, Cephalolurus. So coming on to the thallus organization, algae exhibit great diversity in the organization of plant body. So they can be unicellular, that is in unicellular they can be motile or non-motile. Then colonial forms, then synovial forms, then filamentous forms. Filamentous forms also comes under two, that is simple filamentous or branch filamentous, then dendrite forms. Unicellular algae, they are single cell algae. They can be either motile because they will be having flagella. Example is Chlamydomonas. Then they can be non-motile cocoid like Chlorella. Then some algae form colonies, that is the cells are grouped in aggregations called colonies. For example, Spediastra and Volvox. Then some algae are synovial algae, that is its colony has a fixed number of cells. For example, there will be 16 cells in Pandorina and 32 cells in Eudorina. These are the synovial algae. Then filamentous algae. Filamentous algae, these are multicellular algae. They can be of two types, that is simple forms, that is unbranched forms, then as well as branched forms. So simple or unbranched forms, example is Ulothrix, then Spirogyra. Then branched forms, they have branching. It can be a true branching like in Cytonema, or it can be false branching like Cladophora. Then dendrite forms. Dendrite forms, they means like tree. So they appear like tree-like. That is through microscope, if you look under, then they appear like microscopic trees. So this is actually a colony in which the individual cells are joined end to end by producing mucilage at the base end, which looks like a branch tree. So some example is Prasinocloides and Dinobrion. So these are the different types of algae present in water. So some commonly found algal groups in lakes include Bacillariophyceae, Euglenophyceae, Cyanophyceae, and Chlorophyceae. So Cyanophyceae is also called blue-green algae and Chlorophyceae is called green algae. Bacillariophyceae is also called diatoms. So next, first is Bacillariophyceae. They occur in freshwater, saltwater, and terrestrial ecosystems. They are single-celled algae with shells constructed of two overlapping valves, composed of pectin and impregnated with silica. So diatoms, they are also called diatoms, and they have a silica cell wall. They may occur as plankton or periphyton. They can be seen attached to rocks or aquatic plants as a substrate, and they can be seen as brownish to green films. Then they are single-celled or unicellular organisms. They also form colonies and filaments. Then bacillary are of two types, centric diatoms and pinnate diatoms. So centric diatoms are radially symmetrical, whereas this is pinnate diatom, they are bilaterally symmetrical. So many diatoms have oil droplets within the cells, which is a photosynthetic food reserve, chrysolaminarin. Then they have the pigments chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, then alpha and beta carotene, and several xanthophylls. Examples are Nitsia, then Symbella, then Melosira, Navicula, Gomphonemma, Pinularia, and Gyrosigma. Next is Euglena. They are typically green and unicellular and occur in freshwater habitats, mainly in ditches, puddles, ponds, streams, lakes, and rivers, mainly contaminated by pollution, or the lakes where there is high organic pollution. So they live where there is decaying organic matter. So most are photosynthetic, but mainly lacking chloroplasts are heterotrophs. So they also lack a cellulose cell wall, and they have proteinaceous pellicle just inside the plasma lemma. They have eye spot, that is a collection of orange-red lipid droplet. So this is Euglena and this is Pacus. So they are characterized by chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, then beta carotene and xanthophylls. Then they also have a nucleus, then two emergent flagella. This is the flagella, and paramylin or chrysolaminarin as a storage product. And they exhibit phototaxis, that is, this Euglena, they swim away from the bright light, that is negative phototaxis, and they move away from the darkness towards subdued light, that is positive phototaxis. That is, they accumulate in a region of low light intensity. Example is Euglena, this is Euglena, then Pacus and Trichilomona species. Next is blue-green algae or cyanobacteria. Also, they comes under Cyanophyceae members. So they are prokaryotic algae and lack membrane-bound organelles. So cyanobacteria, I have already told you, they are the first algae to come up in our ecosystem. So they have converted our reducing atmosphere to an oxygenated one. So they are the aerobic phototrophic organism, perform photosynthesis as they possess chlorophyll A and photosystem 2. They range from unicellular or colonial to branch or unbranched and filamentous. Their food is stored in the form of glycogen. Then cyanobacteria, unlike other algae, they have lot of cell inclusion bodies like phycobilisomes, carboxysomes, then glycogen granules, polyphosphate granules, polybeta hydroxybutyrate granules, then cyanophysin granules, and gas vesicles. So that's why if in polluted lakes, these cyanobacteria, they dominate because they all have cell inclusion bodies, and they can grow very well in under stress conditions. They are heavily pigmented with chlorophyll A, beta carotene, and several xanthophylls. Then also the Cyanophyceae members, they have phycobiliproteins. That is the one which give blue-green coloration to the algae. Example is Microcystis, Merismopedia, Formidium, and Anabina. Next is green algae or Chlorophyta. These are diverse group and are commonly found in freshwater, salt water, and soil. Some are flagellate and others produce reproductive cells, which are biflagellates. The cell wall is constructed of cellulose and pectin, and the main food storage product is true starch. So green algae, they process through chloroplast and contains chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, then alpha and beta carotene, and many xanthophylls. Example Chlorella, then Pediastrum, then Cenidesmus, then Pandurina, Eudorina, then Cenidesmus. So this table shows the features of different classes of algae like Chlorophyceae, Xanthophyceae, Bacillophyceae, then Phaeophyceae, Rhodophyceae, and Cyanophyceae. So they, if you see in this table, all have different nuclear organization, then cell walls material, cell wall structure, then photosynthetic apparatus, then storage product, flagellation, and pigments. So these pigments, they impart color to the algae. So next move on to phytoplankton as bioindicator. So algae are a component of biological monitoring programs. That is, they help in biomonitoring of lakes for assessing the water quality. They are eligible to water quality assessment because they have different nutrient requirements than rapid reproduction rate and very short life cycle. So bioindicators help in the following way. So it indicates the presence of contaminant. It helps to identify the mechanism of toxicity. It provides early warning of the impeding environmental damage. It provides early indication of the environmental recovery or remediation. Then it can be incorporated into ecological risk assessment. So algae are the bioindicators which helps to help us in biomonitoring experiments. So the knowledge of the composition and the abundance of phytoplankton, it constitutes a major feature for the assessment of trophic status in lakes, since they are the indicators of trophic status and the water quality of lakes. So discharge of domestic agriculture industrial wastewater into aquatic ecosystems leads to increased amount of nutrients, that is nitrogen and phosphorus in lakes. So to the lakes, if the sewage water flows into the lakes, then the algae will grow to such an extent that water will be very green in color. So the consequences of water pollution will be increase in the primary production, that is increase in the algal biomass. Then changes in the community structure of the phytoplankton. So only pollution tolerant algae can live in polluted waters. Then causes phytoplankton blooms like Cyanobacteria. Since Cyanobacteria has all cell inclusion bodies and they have specialized structure, they can grow very well than the other algae. So algae as indicators of organically polluted water. So all this Bacillophyceae, Chlorophyceae, Cyanophyceae, and Euglenophysceae, some members can grow on organically polluted water. Example: Oscillatoria principus, Oscillatoria tenuis, then Chlamydomonas reinhardti, then Cyclotella species. Then Chlorella vulgaris, then Pandorina morum, these are Chlorophyceae members. Then Nitsia palea and Melosira, they are Bacillophyceae members. Then Euglena viridis and Facus longicoda, that is Euglenophysceae, and Navicula species, that is Bacillophyceae. So all these algae will be present in organically polluted lakes. Then algae as indicators of sewage. So where there is sewage pollution, some type of algae occur. That is, mainly they will be filamentous forms like Oscillator species, then Nonstop species, Anabina species, then Spirulina species, and Stegeoclonium. So mainly the filamentous forms dominate in sewage water, but Euglena also occurs, like they do very well in organically polluted lakes. So sewage also contains a lot of organic pollution. Then algae as indicators of industrial waste. So if the industrial waste, they definitely will be having heavy metals in them. So algae can also tell about the heavy metal pollution in lakes. For example, so in chromium rich water, Navicula cuspidata, then Nitsia palea, Euglena viridis will occur. In case of oil waste, Amphora ovalis, Diatoma vulgae, then Melosira variants will dominate. In case of phenolic waste, the algae like Gomphonium purvidum, Diatoma vulgae, then Sinatria alna will dominate. In case of iron-rich water, Pinularia subcapitata, then Spirulina linearis will dominate. So, seeing about the composition of algae, we can just tell the heavy metal pollution in lakes. Let's move on to economic importance of algae. So, algae helps in the biofuel industry, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, bioplastics, helps in pest control, then food, and helps in bioremediation. So let's move on to algae in biofuel industry. So what is the advantageous feature that makes algae helpful in the biofuel industry? So algae have very simple cellular structure but have high photosynthetic yields. algae have very short life cycle, about 1 to 10 days approximately. Then algae can synthesize and accumulate large quantities of lipids per dry weight biomass, that is about 40 to 86% lipid they can accumulate in their cell. Then they are the most convincing non-food source of biodiesel. Then microalgae can be cultivated both in freshwater and seawater on non-arable land, and they do not compete for resources with conventional agriculture. Then algae can grow under controlled conditions of bioreactors throughout the year. So in a very small area, they can grow well and we will get a good lipid yield. Then algae yields more lipid than other oilseed crops. And also the residual algal biomass after oil extraction can be used to make ethanol or methane. So this table gives a comparison of different sources of biodiesel like corn, soybean, then canola, jatropha, coconut, then oil palm and microalgae. So if you see this table, so microalgae gives a high oil yield compared to corn, soybean, canola, jatropha, oil palm. But they require very small land. But the other oil crops, they require more land, but they yield very less oil. So this table shows the oil content of some microalgae. So you can see all the algae have different oil content in them. So the highest here is Schizochytrium, that is about 50 to 77%. This is Schizochytrium. Then this Botryococcus brownie, about 25 to 75%. Then Nanochloropsis, about 31 to 68%. And it's that Nitsia is about 45 to 47%. So moving to the commercial products from algae. So many products are derived from algal cell wall for economic use like agar, then alginic acid and carrageenan. So carrageenan is produced from the walls of several red algae like chondrus and gigatina. Then agar is also, it's a very popular agent, that is solidifying agent in the preparation of microbial media. So it helps in microbiological experiments. So it is derived from the red algae, that's Gelidium and Gracilaria. Then alginic acid and its salts are obtained from the walls of brown algae, that is Macrocystis, and this is Laminaria. But algae also have a role in treating health problems. Like here you can see ulva. Ulva can be used to treat goiter, then reduce fever, then ease pain, then induce urination. Then in case of codium, codium can treat urinary disease and edema. Then sargassum, they can treat cervical lymphadenitis, then edema. Then porphyra, they can be used to treat goiter, bronchitis, then tonsillitis and cough. Then gelidium can be used to treat gastric diseases, hemorrhoids, and then reduces fever. So algae, these are macroalgae, and they are also have medicinal properties, and they can treat very good diseases also. So apart from that, microalgae they also give out lot of secondary metabolites. For example, this is Dunaliella salina. It's a source of photosynthetic pigment, that beta carotene. Beta carotene is used as an orange dye and is a vitamin C supplement. Other algae like Chlorella and Schizochytrium also we have seen, they have oil content and they are very good for biofuel. So they have polyunsaturated fatty acids. Then another example is biotin and vitamin E can be derived from Euglena gracilis. Phycocyanin can be derived from Spirulina platensis. Then astaxanthin and lutein can be derived from Haematococcus pluvialis. So these are the secondary metabolites derived from algae. So major microalgae commercialized for human nutrition are Spirulina, Chlorella, Dunaliella salina, then Aphanizomin, Phlozacate. So these are major producers. These are different companies producing all these products. So in Spirulina, in case of Spirulina, Spirulina is found as powders, extracts, tablets, then chips, pasta, etc. So the world production is 3,000 tons per year. In case of chlorella, chlorella can be obtained in the form of tablets, powders, nectar, noodles, etc. So the world production is 2000 tons per year. Then Dunaliella salina, it is found as powders and also it gives beta carotene, about 1200 tons per year. Then Aphanizomin flauzeckia, it can be found in the form of capsules, powder, crystals, etc. with a world production of about 500 tons per year. So let's see the health benefits of spirulina, for example. So spirulina has antifungal, anti-cancer, antioxidants, antibacterial, energy booster, then immune booster, then reduces candida, then anti-inflammatory, reduces cholesterol, detoxes that heavy metals, lowers blood pressure. Then this spirulina has about 6 times more protein than eggs, then 50 times more iron than spinach, then 7 times more calcium than milk. Then promotes healthy weight loss and has about 6 times higher iron content than beef liver. So in Mexico, the spirulina is collected from the lake Texcoco, and then they have made into dry cake and they have commercialized this product. In another lake, that is Lake Kosorum, that is in Chad, the spirulina is harvested from the alkaline lake and then they have made a dry cake called dihe. This dihe is worth more than 1 lakh US dollars. So this means that the algae in the lakes can also be extracted. They can be collected and then they can be converted into health products. Another example is Nonstop Species, that is Nonstop Flagelliforme, that is in Chinese, they make phycology. So actually this contains about 19 amino acids. So it has high protein content, of which 8 amino acids, they are essential to the human nutrition. So about 35.8 to 38% of the total amino acids is present in Nonstop Flagelliforme. Also, this is used in traditional Chinese medicine since 400 years ago for the treatment of diarrhea, hypertension and hepatitis. Next is the product derived from Chlorella. So Chlorella is also has high good protein content, about 51 to 58% on the diet weight, and also carotenoids and wide range of vitamins. They contain beta glucan, that is an active immunostimulator. So it gives high immunity and reducing the blood lipids. So nowadays Chlorella growth factor is available. So here you can see they have written detoxifies the body of harmful substances like heavy metals and environmental toxins. So this Chlorella also has very high medicinal value. So another product is Algae Omega. It is for eye and heart health. And I also have told that algae can be used in cosmetics. That is, this is an algae face mask. Then this is omega-3 DHA supplement, which is better than fish oil. So this algae oil is very good for joint and eye health, then immune system support, then it's a brain boost, then used for healthier heart and brighter skin. So I have already told you that algae can be used in biofuel industry. So the global algae biofuel market is expected to reach the US dollar 10.73 billion by 2025. So this is status of algae products based in India. So in India, there's a lot of companies have come up which extracts algae and also they produce algae to a large extent and then also gives many medicinal products. Like Herbal Hills, they give spirulina tablets. Then Shibin Chlorella is the first company in India to start commercial production of chlorella as a nutrition supplement. Also the nutraceuticals and astaxanthin and carotenoids, they also are giving all these products. So another beneficial aspect is diatomite. So diatomite is the cell wall of diatoms are made up of silica. So when the diatom dies, then all the silica in the cell wall get deposited in the form of diatomaceous earth. So the sedimentary rock rich in fossilized diatoms, they are called diatomaceous earth. So this is a diatomaceous rock and then this is a powder format. So diatomaceous earth is useful in industrial filtration process, then acts as an insecticide, then it helps in the production of lightweight bricks, then car and silver polishing powders, then manufacture of water glass, then preparation of bleaching powder, etc. So it finds a lot of applications in various industries. One example is this is diatomaceous earth food grade. So it is a natural health supplement. Being high in silica, this diatomaceous earth supports the growth of healthy hair, skin, nails, and joints. Then this is diatomaceous earth crawling insect killer. So it also helps in killing the insects. So this diatomaceous earth powder dries up the water content and forces the ticks or fleas to dehydrate and then die without affecting the skin or causing any irritation to our skin or pet. So likewise, diatomaceous earth is useful in many industries and also helps in our household. Another beneficial aspect is nitrogen fixation. So the algae like Anabina species, then Cylindrosperma, Nostoc, then Cytonema, then Calothrix, and Tolipothrix. That is, these are all Cyanophyceae members, and these are filamentous, and they help in the nitrogen fixation. So it is helpful in the agriculture fields. Another beneficial aspect is they help in biological research, like Chlorella vulgaris and Senidosmus quadricoda is used for many this photosynthetic to understand the photosynthetic dynamics. Then it also helps in bioremediation aspects. There are also negative aspects due to algae. So they cause the death of fishes and animals. For example, Dinoflagellates, they cause death of fishes and animals. Example, Gymnodium species, Goniolect species, Pyrodinium species. Next is blue-green algae. Example, Microcystis species, then Anabina, Gliotrichia, and Nodularia. So, dinoflagellates and blue-green algae, they mainly cause death to the aquatic organisms. Another negative aspect is they cause the disease and death in human beings also. So this is a dinoflagellate. This is Gymnodium brevis. So it causes respiratory disorder. Microcystis species, they cause gastric disorder. Then Anabina species causes gastric disorder. Then the species like Lyngbia and Chlorella, it causes skin infections. Another negative aspect with algae is they cause water blooms. So you can see in some lakes, due to the high this nitrogen and phosphorus, lot of algae, they dominate at the surface of the lakes. So one example is by this Microcystis species, which forms very blooms at the top of the surface. So if algae dominates at the top of the lakes, then there will be less light penetration. So there will be less photosynthetic activity and the causes oxygen depletion. At last, the aquatic organism or fishes, they will die off. So this is fish death at Sankin Lake in Bangalore in 2013 because of the Microcystis blooms. So cyanobacteria and their toxins can cause major water quality problems. They cause taste and odor problems in lakes. Then they are produce neurotoxins, hepatotoxins, cytotoxins, and skin irritants, which pose threats for humans, other vertebrates, and invertebrates. Another negative aspect is by dinoflagellates. Mainly dinoflagellates form red tide. That is, they form this reddish, they impart reddish or orangish color to the oceans. Example is Alexandrian species, which causes paralytic shellfish poisoning caused by the production of saxid toxin. So saxid toxin is produced by this Alexandrian species and they cause shellfish poisoning, causing disruption of nerve function and paralysis. The extreme cases may result in death by asphyxiation by respiratory paralysis. Next example is Carina brevis, which causes neurotoxic shellfish poisoning. So they release brevitoxins, causing gastrointestinal disorders, neurological disorder, then acute respiratory illness. Next is Pseudonychia, which causes amnesic shellfish poisoning. So they cause gastrointestinal neurological disorders followed by memory loss, coma, or death. So this red tide is caused by dinoflagellates. So recently, in this last week, the algae bloom has also occurred in India. That's in coastal Karnataka. That is, the seawater between the Karwar and Kasargod is stained in green, and it is told to affect the marine population, especially bivalve mollusk. This is in Botswana. That is, it blames the poisonous algae for the death of elephants. About 330 elephants have died because they drank the contaminated water by toxic blue-green algae. So this is in Hampton's Indian Creek. Because of this algae bloom, it caused fish death in the fish death, and that is mainly because of Alexandria monitalatum species. So this has caused fish kill in Hampton's Indian Creek. So algae helps in nutrient removal also. That is, they help in bioremediation also. So a large quantity of N and P is present in wastewater and causes harmful effects on freshwater and marine ecosystems. So here algae can take up the nitrogen and phosphorus for growth, then improves the water quality of the aquatic ecosystem. So they help in nutrient removal. At the same time, bacteria can break down all this organic matter and they assimilate all these nutrients using the oxygen produced by the photosynthesis of the algae. So algae and bacteria, they are living together and then they help in the nutrient removal. So also the algae releases a variety of organic substances composing of protein, lipids and nucleic acids. So all these components like proteins, lipids and nucleic acid, they serve as substrate for bacterial growth. On the contrary, the growth of algae can be promoted by the bacteria. So this relationship occurs in all the water bodies. So one example to remove the NNP content that is proposed by Dr. T.V. Ramchandran and team is the Jekur model, wherein the treated, this is the wastewater from various sources. They has to enter to the treatment plant, wherein the secondary treatment happens, and then that secondary treated wastewater is then led to the constructed wetlands, wherein there is which contains macrophytes, and then that is again let into a shallow algae pond. So when water goes through all these, then the NNP will be removed, and then they have to be let into the lake. So the nitrogen and phosphorus content in the water can also be reduced by this mechanism. That is, the algae helps in bioremediation activities also. So I recommend that the algae in the lakes can be extracted and then they can be used for making lot of products, commercial products, and also they can be used for the biofuel production like biogas, bioethanol, biodiesel, biobutanol, and then they can be used for making bioplastics, feedstock, animal feed, then fertilizer or nutrients, then as food, that is for aquaculture it can be used. Then since it has nutraceutical, pharmaceutical, and has lot of vitamins in them, they can be used, has very high medicinal value, and also they can be used in the cosmetic industry. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Asulaba, for that insightful presentation on algae, covering almost all aspects of algae, starting from its characteristics to the beneficial as well as the negative aspects of algae. I hope the participants or the audience of this talk would have got a know-how of what an algae is, and then how is it going to be useful and beneficial, how we can get economic benefit out of algae. So if there are any questions, I request the audience to post it in the chat box. As of now, there are no questions, Sulabha. If that is the case, I would like to thank you for the
Before that,
very
Sharanya,
insightful
I also
presentation. Yeah.
Sharanya.
Yes. Yes.
Before that, I wish to thank Dr. T.V.
Yes.
Ramchandra, that is coordinator for Energy and Wetland and Research Group, CS Department, IISc Bangalore, for giving me all the support in my research. And then I used to thank Deepthi, Sharanya, and Bharat Settu for the technical support.
Okay. Okay, Sulabha. So nice of you. Thank you so much. And this ends our today's webinar session. See you all soon in our next webinar series. Thank you all.